Tonight, former President Donald Trump is back on the campaign trail, just days after being indicted by a federal grand jury. What is said that has the Justice Department calling for a gag order, barring him from discussing any evidence publicly. News Nation has all the details and is live from Trump's campaign speech in South Carolina tonight. And in New York tonight, a suspected killer is in police custody, facing hate crime charges. The teenager turned himself in after nearly a week-long manhunt. He's accused of killing a black gay man who was dancing with friends at a Brooklyn gas station. Those details in less than 5 minutes. Missing for nearly 30 years, another missing woman identified in Gilgo Beach. Her connection with the other victims, and could new charges be coming for alleged serial killer Rex Heuermann? And Ukrainian troops are claiming a victory after striking a massive Russian oil tanker this weekend. Ukraine's second attack in as many days. Plus, could armed U.S. troops be headed to the Middle East? The proposal that has them arming up and joining commercial boats in the Persian Gulf. And it's time for the annual Dog Surfing Championships. We'll show you the pups shredding some gnarly waves at this year's competition. That and more on News Nation Prime right now.
Live from News Nation headquarters, this is News Nation Prime.
Welcome back to News Nation Prime. I'm Nick Smith. Hate crime murder investigation correspondent Emily Finn will be joining us in just a moment with more on the teen arrested for hate-motivated murder in New York. Plus, we'll be listening in to Donald Trump's first rally since his appearance in court this week. The former president returns to the campaign trail tonight and comes as Republicans debate whether Trump is the right man for the party in 2024. And Evan Moon is live with the latest. Evan.
Yeah, it's been quite a week for the former president, who was arraigned in a D.C. court just on Thursday in his third indictment. Now, potentially more legal action being taken this week. The former president has until Monday to respond to a request for a protective order against him, just a day after he pleaded not guilty to criminal charges of trying to overturn his 2020 election loss. The protective order would limit what information Trump and his legal team could share publicly about the case.
So this ridiculous indictment against us, it's not a legal case. It's an act of desperation by a failed and disgraced crooked Joe Biden and his radical left thugs to preserve their grip on power.
The motion by the Department of Justice comes after a Truth Social post where Trump appeared to promise revenge, posting, "If you go after me, I'm coming after you."
The fake charges put forth in their sham indictment are an outrageous criminalization of political speech. That's all it is.
DOJ prosecutors claim it's because Trump has posted on social media about, quote, witnesses, judges, attorneys, and others associated with legal matters pending against him. The Trump campaign responding, saying the Truth post cited is the definition of political speech and was in response to dishonest interest groups and super PACs. As all of this unfolds, Trump now calling on the Supreme Court to intercede in his mounting legal troubles. 2024 opponents weighing in on the charges against the GOP frontrunner.
It's just outrageous. I'm like most Americans. I'm upset, I'm annoyed, I'm pissed. I also know our adversaries like China and Russia are laughing.
Trump still holds a commanding lead in the race. His supporters even appear to be making their presence known at other candidate events, including his former VP.
Why'd you sell out the people?
And Trump's biggest 2024 rival, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, now seemingly rejecting Trump's claims of election fraud, saying, quote, "The election is what it is. All those theories that were put out there did not prove to be true," calling them unsubstantiated. On that protective order, Trump's team did ask for an extension to respond, but that was denied quickly tonight by that D.C. judge. So they will need to respond to that motion by Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Nick.
Evan Move live for us tonight at our nation's capital. We want to go back live right now to former President Trump, who is speaking in South Carolina. And this is for the first time since his most recent indictments this week. Let's take a listen.
Going to go through the roof. That'll be a terrible thing, and that's given to you as a gift from the Democrats. Remember that. But we will reduce taxes even further. We'll get it extended, and we will reduce taxes further, because the thing that built our economy with the regulation cuts and those tremendous tax cuts, the incentive for people to work. And they don't have the incentive right now. Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows. Nobody has any, they have no clue. They announce employment numbers which sound good, 3.5%, but nobody's looking for a job. So they're fake numbers. In other words, they don't include these people. They're fake. I spoke with Larry Kudlow. He said, it's so sad what they're trying to get away with. The whole thing with these people is a con. It's a con. It's like a con job. It's disinformation. Like Russia, disinformation. It's all disinformation. These are crooked people. These are very bad people, and they're very dangerous people. To bring tens of thousands more manufacturing jobs back to South Carolina, I will impose a border tariff on all foreign-made goods. So if they want to sell into our country, and if they want to take our jobs by doing that, we're going to have a tax that's going to be a privilege tax. And this has happened before. You know, in the 1890s, we had a president.
That, of course, is President Trump speaking to a room full of supporters in South Carolina. Mr. Trump talking about a tax reduction plan that if he is elected, he will put forward, and also talking about bringing a tariff to stop the import of foreign goods. We will, of course, keep an eye on this and bring you more updates if they become available. Well, new developments tonight on a possible hate crime in Brooklyn. A teen has now been charged with murder as a hate crime in connection with the death of this man. The 28-year-old professional dancer was fatally stabbed last weekend at a gas station. News Nation correspondent Emily Finn is live in the studio with us tonight with the details. Emily, what can you tell us about the suspect and the victim?
Well, Nick, today police confirmed that the suspect is a 17-year-old who is now facing charges for murder as a hate crime and criminal possession of a weapon, all in connection to Sibley's deadly stabbing. The suspect's name has not been released because of his age, but officers say he attends a high school in the area where the crime took place. Surveillance video shows Sibley dancing outside of a Brooklyn gas station when the teen and his friends approached him. Police say the group are Muslim, and the 17-year-old allegedly made homophobic comments to Sibley. Law enforcement officials say they believe the group's religious beliefs could have motivated the crime. An argument ensued, and that's when the teen stabbed Sibley before running away. Sibley's friends and family say they were stunned by his death. He was known in the local community for his dance moves and his uplifting spirit. Sibley is a gay man, and his friends say they believe his stabbing was motivated by hate. Dozens of people gathered near the gas station where he was killed last night to mourn his death. Sibley's mother spoke with News Nation's New York affiliate. Take a listen.
I thank the media. I thank them for pushing it and talking about my baby, you know, because he was a beautiful person.
The incident is drawing backlash from gay advocates. In a statement, GLAAD says the arrest of a suspect is only one measure of justice for O'Shea and all LGBTQ people who just want to be themselves and be safe. The NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force is currently investigating the incident, and a candlelight vigil is scheduled to take place at Manhattan's LGBTQ Community Center in Sibley's memory, and that's expected to take place tonight, Nick.
We know that Sibley had tons of friends and loved ones who cared about him, and I'm sure that they are grateful to the NYPD for quickly identifying a suspect. Emily Finn, thank you. Well, 2 Orlando police officers are in critical condition after being shot on Friday by a suspect who jumped into a stolen car and drove away. The incident unfolded when police pulled over a vehicle as part of a homicide investigation and were shot by the suspect in the car. The gunman was later shot and killed in a standoff after a 7-hour manhunt. Police say their suspect, whom they have not yet identified, had an extensive criminal history. The wounded officers are expected to make a full recovery. A horrifying new video shows a deadly highway shooting in Ohio. Watch here. A gunman opens fire on a driver, causing him to lose control and crashing into oncoming traffic. All of this happened on Thursday on a busy highway just outside of Akron. Police are still looking for that gunman. And we're learning a California couple acted in revenge when they murdered a man in Las Vegas. That's according to new court documents that have been filed. Sheldon Johnson and Kenesha Rice were arrested and accused of shooting and killing Martin Loftus in an apartment back in February, then running off to California. Now, the night before Loftus's girlfriend died in a head-on car crash. Now, she had drugs and alcohol in her system. Johnson, who is a suspected shooter, is her younger brother. Investigators believe he blamed Loftus for her death. And police in Chicago are trying to find the man who held up a fashion store at gunpoint. Investigators say the man came in the back of the store last night after it closed, then threatened employees with a handgun. This is the second robbery at this Dior store in the last month.
I know many are shocked and appalled that Miss Russell is only being charged with 2 misdemeanors, despite all the panic and disruption her actions caused. Let me assure you, I too share the same frustration, but existing laws only allow the charges that were filed to be filed.
Frustration is how Hoover Police Chief Nick Derzis described his feelings on the legal limitations by which to charge Carlee Russell for fabricating a story about being kidnapped and finding a toddler on the highway. On Friday, the Alabama woman who confessed to making up her story was charged with false reporting to law enforcement and falsely reporting an incident. Both are misdemeanors that carry up to a year in jail. Well, a California judge is accused of killing his wife this week. Orange County Superior Court Judge Jeffrey Ferguson was arrested in connection of his wife's death. 65-year-old Cheryl Ferguson was found suffering from at least 1 gunshot wound. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Ferguson has since posted bail. Chris Wolf reports with more on this situation.
He spent most of his career sending criminals to jail and then presiding over criminal trials. But now he's on the other side of the system. 72-year-old Orange County Superior Court Judge Jeffrey Ferguson was arrested Thursday night on suspicion of shooting and killing his wife, 65-year-old Cheryl Ferguson. Social media postings show the couple in much happier times. Their home sits in an upscale, typically quiet neighborhood in Anaheim Hills, but Canyon Vista Drive was anything but quiet on that fateful evening.
I heard a man scream, "Don't shoot me," and then I heard a primal yell. And so my only assumption, it was a son screaming, "Don't shoot me." And it was a devastated yell. And that's when I knew something really crazy was happening outside.
He just looked indifferent. I didn't see him crying or anything, or shocked, or maybe shocked, but he was just walking out calmly, I guess, and then they brought him to the sidewalk.
Sources tell the LA Times the Ferguson son was home at the time of the shooting. The young man, in his 20s, tried to give his mother CPR and later sat with his father on the curb before answering questions from authorities. Investigators obtained a search warrant and after daybreak removed firearms, including rifles, from the house. Neighbors, friends, people close to the couple say news of the deadly shooting comes as a total shock. Several claim such violence is completely out of character for Jeffrey Ferguson.
She was always very supportive of him, throughout his career, always there for him. He worked a lot and was very dedicated and committed to what he did. But she was just one of those wives that always stood behind him and supported him all the time.
The Honorable Jeffrey Ferguson has served as a judge since 2015. Before taking the bench, he spent more than 30 years with the Orange County District Attorney's Office.
2 bodies were found in the Rio Grande at the southern border this week. One of them tangled in a line of buoys recently installed by U.S. Border Patrol to prevent migrants from entering the country. But the official cause of death is unconfirmed. News Nation correspondent Allie Bradley has more on the story.
Yeah, so what we can tell you here is that one of the bodies that was recovered, they're actually being identified as a 20-year-old man from Honduras. That's according to Mexican authorities. Now, that body was recovered about 3 miles upstream from where those buoys are actually deployed. The body, though, that was found near those buoys, that person has not yet been identified. Their identity is still unclear here, but the buoy barrier stretches about 1,000 feet in the middle of the Rio Grande in the Eagle Pass area. So the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs is saying that these buoys violate its sovereignty. And officials again express safety and human rights concerns that the buoys pose for migrants. The ministry also adding that the state policies that Texas has run counter to plans that the U.S. and Mexico have. Now, the Foreign Ministry is also alleging that this person was stuck in the buoy barriers. The spokesperson for Texas Governor Greg Abbott, though, saying that the Mexican government is, quote, flat out wrong. He says all of the evidence they have says the drownings occurred nowhere near the barriers. Texas DPS Lieutenant Chris Oliveira says the marine barrier itself doesn't have any type of sharp objects or any hooks or anything that would cause somebody to get caught or cause injury.
The water's very shallow. It's anywhere between maybe just above knee level, below your waist. So very shallow area there with the buoys in place. So these drownings that are taking place are either taking place further upriver or downriver away from the buoy. And of course, with the current, the deceased or bodies are going to be, floating towards those areas. And that's what happened in this particular case, where this individual actually drowned. The body resurfaced a day later, and with the current floated and actually, made it against the buoy.
The Department of Homeland Security telling News Nation the drowning should be investigated, saying it's crucial to, quote, manage our borders in a safe and humane way. Lieutenant Oliveira is saying migrant drownings are unfortunately a regular occurrence in the Rio Grande. He says over the 4th of July weekend, which was before the buoys were deployed, 4 people attempting to cross near Eagle Pass drowned, including an infant. Now, when it comes to this ongoing legal battle, we know last month the Department of Justice brought forth a lawsuit against the state of Texas, trying to get a court to force Texas to remove those barriers. The Biden administration citing humane and environmental concerns with that barrier. We reached out to the Department of Justice to see if these deaths are going to have any bearing on this lawsuit. We have not yet heard back. Back to you.
Allie Bradley for us at the border. Allie, thank you. Well, Donald Trump is in South Carolina tonight. It's his first campaign event since being indicted by a federal grand jury earlier this week. We'll hear what he has to say live, coming up in just a few minutes. Then, the remains of a woman found on Gilgo Beach have been identified. Police say she's been missing for nearly 30 years. What we've learned about her so far and how the discovery impacts the ongoing investigation. You're watching News Nation Prime on News Nation. News for all America.
Know their names.
Phil Mickelson. Dustin Johnson.
You've heard the hype.
LIV Golf just keeps getting better and better.
Now the LIV Golf season continues live on the old white at Greenbrier. As Taylor Gooch looks to hold off Brooks Koepka and Cam Smith in the chase for the title.
It's unbelievable.
I play hard. I fight hard.
You got to go out and then win it.
LIV Golf Greenbrier. Final round coverage starts tomorrow live at 1 Eastern on the CW.
When moderate to severe ulcerative colitis takes you off course, put it in check with Rinvoq, a once-daily pill.
When I wanted to see results fast, Rinvoq delivered rapid symptom relief and helped leave bathroom urgency behind. Check.
When UC tried to slow me down, I got lasting steroid-free remission with Rinvoq. Check.
And when UC caused damage, Rinvoq came through by visibly repairing my colon lining. Check. Rapid symptom relief, lasting steroid-free remission.
And a chance to visibly repair the colon lining. Check, check, and check.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal, cancers including lymphoma and skin cancer, death, heart attack, stroke, and tears in the stomach or intestines occurred. People 50 and older with at least one heart disease risk factor have higher risks. Don't take if allergic to Rinvoq, as serious reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Put UC in check and keep it there with Rinvoq.
Ask your gastroenterologist about Rinvoq and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Itch, itch, scratch, must not itch.
Stop the itch sanity with Cortisone 10 for bug bites, poison ivy, and other itches. Cortisone 10 is #1 doctor recommended. It works fast and lasts for hours. Cortisone 10.
Your brain is an amazing thing. But as you get older, it naturally begins to change, causing a lack of sharpness or even trouble with recall. Thankfully, the breakthrough in Prevagen helps your brain and actually improves memory. The secret is an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. In clinical trials, Prevagen has been shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
I got this KitchenAid stand mixer for only $56.
DealDash.com. Online auctions since 2009. This PlayStation 5 sold for only 50 cents. This iPad Pro sold for less than $34. Go to DealDash.com and see how much you can save.
Make this the summer you started here and ended up all the way up here. The summer you gathered with a few friends and later a few hundred more. Found the perfect place to dive in and an even better way to dry off. Make this the summer of Jeep.
During the summer of Jeep, get 2.9% financing or $2,000 bonus cash on the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Visit Jeep.com for new inventory available near you.
Welcome back. In 1996, human remains of an adult woman were found on Fire Island near Gilgo Beach in New York. In 2011, more of her remains were found nearby. Now in 2023, authorities have finally determined who she was. Authorities have identified the remains as Karen Vergata, a 34-year-old Manhattan woman who disappeared in 1996. She's one of 10 people that police fear may have fallen prey to a serial killer. News Nation correspondent Alex Capriello has the latest.
Good evening, Nick. It's taken 27 years, but now a family finally has some answers. The Gilgo Beach Task Force officially positively identifying a woman who up to this point had only been known as Fire Island Jane Doe. Police say the skeletal remains found near Gilgo Beach match 34-year-old Karen Vergata, who lived in Manhattan and worked as an escort when she went missing back in 1996. Pieces of her skeleton were found in two separate locations, miles apart from each other, in Toby Beach and Fire Island. Using advanced DNA technology, those remains were confirmed to belong to the same victim and then later positively ID'd as Vergata. Police were able to make that match about 9 months ago, but due to the ongoing investigation into Rex Heuermann, the man accused of being the Gilgo Beach serial killer, those details were kept secret until now. It's important to note that the police did not connect Karen Vergata's death to Rex Heuermann in any way. In fact, they did not announce any suspects or charges whatsoever. But the task force says it's going to be investigating any sort of leads in this death investigation in the same way they're pursuing every lead in the Gilgo 4 investigation. Nick?
And that was Alex Capriello reporting for us. Joining us now to talk more about Karen Vergata and the larger picture of the Gilgo Beach murders is former FBI Special Agent and News Nation's Law and Justice contributor, Jennifer Coffindaffer. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. I know as a former FBI Special Agent and Law and Justice contributor, you have worked in this space for a while. Jennifer, when we talk about this DNA, helping them to determine the identity of Miss Vergata, why is that so important, and how is it that they're able to use that information to possibly exclude or include her in the murders of those connected with the Gilgo Beach suspect?
Well, first of all, Nick, it's so important because you cannot start an investigation unless you really understand who that victim was. Once you have a victim name, you can look back and you can find so much more information, which law enforcement already has. They've identified where she worked, which was not far from where Rex Heuermann worked. They found out what industry she was in, which was the same industry type worker that Rex Heuermann liked to associate with and liked to victimize. Also, the age is very interesting, fairly young female in her 30s. So all of this information helps law enforcement either connect Rex Heuermann to her death or another individual.
When we have information like this come forward, is it commonplace then, Jennifer, to try and revisit other open cases and other missing victims and see if they're tied to the suspect that you may have in custody?
Well, certainly. And when you look at the place these individuals were all buried or discarded, that proximity already makes a tie-in with each individual. In this case, in 1996, recall, they found her lower extremities and they were bound. So I think that's very interesting because we know that at least with the Gilgo 3 that they were also bound, and that's very similar in terms of modus operandi.
Jennifer, there are 10 Gilgo Beach victims whose remains have been found, but Rex Heuermann has been charged with killing only 3 of them, and also named as a suspect in the 4th. Do you think it's likely he'll eventually be connected to some of the other victims, like Karen Vergata? And if so, why or why not?
I think it is very likely he will be, and I base that on the fact that it's similar in terms of how these crimes were committed, where the bodies were left. also the binding process, also the nature of each of those victims, all being female. We have one small child and we have one man who was dressed as a woman. So you have these similarities that draw a person to think that it could be the same serial killer. If not, we could be looking at another serial killer, Nick, which is also very scary because he's not in custody.
And then possibly dumping bodies in the same area. That would really be frightening. Jennifer, one last question before I let you go. Karen Vergata's remains were found in 1996, but they weren't confirmed as hers until this week. Can you explain why it's such a long process to figure out whose remains they were if they had this DNA?
Well, in part, 1996, there wouldn't have been the DNA advancements to use the mitochondrial DNA connection to actually conduct genealogy studies and connect that DNA to somebody else in her family, which is how they ultimately were able to identify her. Recall also 2011, her skull was found. Now, because this task force only recently started up, are we seeing true advancements in terms of identification of these victims? Thank goodness, Nick, for this task force.
Jennifer Coffindeffer, thank you so much for joining us and breaking that down.
Thank you, Nick.
Well, still ahead tonight, Ukrainian troops are celebrating a successful strike on a Russian oil tanker. We're digging into the latest from Ukraine and how troops are faring as the counteroffensive enters its third month. Plus, Donald Trump is in South Carolina tonight, getting his campaign back on track after his most recent indictment this week. We'll listen in to hear what the former president has to say. You're watching News Nation Prime on News Nation, news for all America.
Morning, Leah.
Hi. I went to Mattress Firm and got matched with the best mattress for me. I have 120 nights to decide if I like it. And they have a low price guarantee. I just had a great night of sleep.
The right mattress matters.
We'll find yours.
Mattress Firm. When you find your reason to go on, let it pull you past the doubt, past the pain, and past your limits. No matter what, we go on. BioFreeze.
Back in my day, we didn't have all these types of fancy chicken.
Pretty sure you have buffalo wings and fried chicken.
Well, we didn't have garlic parm or sweet bourbon barbecue.
And he had to walk uphill both ways.
And it snowed every time.
Yeah, right, Grandpa. You're from Miami.
This is not just delivery. This is knowing even superheroes can use a sidekick. Walgreens.
You would think a pan is a pan until Made In came along, and I went, wow, these things are something better.
Those are the pans that we use at Alinea, at one of the best restaurants in the world.
It's built for a home cook like me, but fit for Alinea like him.
You can't count on the weather, but you can count on Dish and our reliability guarantee. Should you ever lose signal, contact us and we'll credit back your account.
Hey, Dylan, I want your dad to go out and help you practice your sliding.
The reliability guarantee from Dish.
Works hard at hour one and twice as hard when you take it again the next day. So Betty can be the
barcode beat conductor.
Let's be more than our allergies. And for fast allergy relief with a powerful decongestant, try Zyrtec D.
When you drive a Ram, summer is more than a season. It's an opportunity to load up on more toys, to stop looking for fun and be the one who brings it, and to make every day even more inviting than the last. Make this the summer you drive America's best light-duty pickup.
During the Ram Make This the Summer event, get $4,000 retail consumer cash allowance on most 2023 Ram 1500 trucks.
So I got this app from Experian. It's got everything I need to help my finances. Got my FICO score, raised it instantly. I even found new ways to save, all right here. Free and fast.
See all you can do with the free Experian app. Download it now.
Everybody's talking about berberine, and it really does work. So you need to try doctor-developed Gluco Gold. This all-in-one formula contains the full research dose of berberine that helps keep your blood sugar in the normal range, plus 3 other powerful ingredients.
It's made a great difference in my life.
We're so sure Gluco Gold will give you round-the-clock support, we'll send you a complimentary bottle. Text VISIT to 321-321.
It keeps my sugar levels right where I want it.
Gluco Gold will help you maintain healthy blood sugar levels while it supports healthy cholesterol and insulin sensitivity guaranteed. Take the first step to making sure your next checkup is better than your last and hearing those 3 wonderful words: blood sugar normal. You can only get your complimentary bottle by texting VISIT to 321-321. Plus, text right now and you'll receive a bottle of vitamin D3 immune support absolutely free. Text VISIT to 321-321.
By the way, you have to see the pundits, even pundits.
Right now, we're listening in live to former President Trump speaking live from South Carolina. Let's take a quick listen.
But only a party that cheats at elections would make it illegal to question those elections. It's the only ones that would really make it difficult. If you can't challenge a rigged election, think of it. We're not looking to do it. We want, they don't go after the people that rigged the election. They go after the people that want to find out what the hell happened. It's a disgrace. They should be going after the people that rigged it. But you don't have strong borders and you don't have good elections. You really don't have a country. So they rigged the presidential election of 2020. And we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024 because our country's not going to survive. Joe Biden is the most incompetent and corrupt president in United States history. The Biden crime family was taking in money from China, Ukraine, Russia, and many, many other countries. And now, whenever more Biden corruption is exposed, his henchmen charge me with crimes. Every time we are going to have a meeting, they announce Jim Jordan, Jamie Comer, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow with Archer. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow. And they end up indicting me that same time because I get a lot of publicity. So this way, nobody knows what's going on. It's called a cover-up. Every time the radical left Democrats do this and the Marxist, communist, fascist indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor because I'm being indicted for you. I am being indicted for you. I don't like that deal so much, by the way. I don't like that deal, but that's okay. No, I'm being indicted for you. I'm being indicted because of what we've done, and I'm being indicted because they're afraid of all of us, because we have a movement that's never been seen in the history of our country. Make America Great Again, MAGA. It's never been seen. There's never been anything like this. And never forget, our enemies want to stop us because we are the only ones who can stop them. We're the only ones. And this is why this election is so important. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. I'll never let that happen. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just standing in their way, and I will never stop standing in their way. You're going to be protected. I promise you this. If you put me back in the White House, their reign will be over and America will be a free nation once again. We're not a free nation right now. We're not a free nation. We have no borders. We have horrible, horrible, unsafe elections, and we have a absolutely dishonest and crooked press for the most part. We have a dishonest...
That, of course, is Mr. Trump speaking to a crowd of supporters there in South Carolina. In a few remarks there that we just heard, we heard Mr. Trump call the Biden family corrupt, calling Mr. Biden himself incompetent, and saying that he is being attacked by both Marxists and fascists, and he is definitely here to protect us, because if he can stand in their way, they cannot get to us. Joining me now, once again, is Mark Reichel and Niall Stanich to comment on some of the things you just heard. Gentlemen, I just heard Mr. Trump talk about also how he wants to make sure that the 2024 election is not rigged like the 2020 was, and that he's being attacked because he dared to challenge the results of that election. Mark, I'm going to jump right in there and just start with you on that one there. Is Mr. Trump walking precariously close to violating what he said he would not do, which is speak in this way?
Yeah, he's fine. Actually, he's on the side he wants to stay on. He'll always walk really close. I think he's going to cross the line at some point. He just can't retaliate against witnesses. He can't influence witnesses, and he can't discuss the facts with witnesses. He's defending himself in the press right now. I don't think there's anything you can stop that. He just cannot influence witnesses or jurors or retaliate against them. I think saying you're innocent is probably something he's going to be able to do throughout the pendency of the case. If they tighten up the restrictions, that's going to be a little tougher for him. But on the same time, right now with what he's saying is fine. What he said earlier, what Niall pointed out, what he spoke about Vice President Pence is really close to the line, probably over the line.
Niall, yeah, talk to me about that, Niall. You felt like that the comments towards Mr. Pence were almost a bridge too far?
Well, the issue is that the legal world and the political world are tangled up so closely in this most recent indictment of the former president. He is part of his terms set at his initial hearing was that he wouldn't interfere or otherwise, meddle with potential witnesses. Now, he then comes and attacks former Vice President Pence in very colourful, vigorous terms, as is his propensity. That could be seen as trying to intimidate a witness. It could also be seen as one candidate for the 2024 Republican nomination attacking another candidate for the Republican nomination. So which of those options takes precedence? There is a legal danger there for the former president.
Now, we also heard the former president talk about how, once again, the 2020 election was stolen, and he wants to make sure that does not happen in 2024. He's speaking to the crowd of supporters there, and he talked about Mr. Biden being both incompetent and corrupt, and saying that Mr. Biden has weaponized his Justice Department to come after him every time he tries to speak out against that rigged election. Another set of indictments come down. Is this a winning strategy, Niall?
Before we get to the strategic point, Nick, I think it behoves us as journalists to say, when the former president describes the 2020 election as rigged, that is false. That is something that was litigated in numerous court cases, and the Trump campaign and its allies lost all but one case, and the one case they won was minor. The indictment that was just released this week has abundant evidence of allies of then President Trump telling him those claims were nonsense. Now, does it work strategically? Clearly it does, because he's leading the Republican field by, as we were saying earlier, 35 to 40 points. But he's factually wrong.
Well, Niall, Mark, I know that we'll continue to watch this, and I'm sure that Mr. Trump will continue to give us plenty with which to work from. Thank you both, gentlemen. A war of words between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and California Governor Gavin Newsom is now heading to the debate stage, both men agreeing to battle each other in a televised event later this year. Correspondent Evan Moon is live in Washington with details on what is and is not yet settled. Evan.
Yeah, Nick, after many months of taunting, Florida's Ron DeSantis has agreed to meet California's Gavin Newsom on the debate stage in a few months. Certainly an interesting move by these two governors, especially when DeSantis is in the midst of a 2024 campaign and Newsom is not running at all. But the two have been in an escalating feud for over a year now, taking jabs at each other for stances on immigration, abortion, gun rights, and education, topics we're sure to hear more about come debate day. But let's dive into what's been agreed upon and what still needs figuring out. First, what's been agreed to. It's been confirmed that Sean Hannity will moderate the debate, and it will be live. He's the only person who can ask questions and has to make sure the governors do not interrupt each other during their designated time to speak. As we know, that always proves to be a challenge. The debate will run 90 minutes long, and speaking time has to be equally divided between the two. Now, what they're still figuring out, opening statements. DeSantis doesn't want opening remarks and instead is proposing a 2-minute video that airs before the program begins, with each governor making the case for their governing philosophy. Governor Newsom is proposing a mano-a-mano debate in an empty room, while DeSantis wants a live audience and tickets distributed 50-50. He's also proposing the debate be held in Georgia or Iowa, with Newsom proposing Georgia, Nevada, or North Carolina. So they have Georgia in common there. The date is seemingly set for Wednesday, November 8th, but it's not official yet. So mark it in pencil, not pen, Nick.
Evan, I could also see North Carolina being on the table, because you and I both know Democrats have their eye on North Carolina and would like to make headway there.
Right. We'll have to wait and see what they choose.
Absolutely. Evan Moon reporting to us live tonight from the nation's capital. Military leaders here at home are debating whether or not to send troops to the Middle East to stop Iran from seizing vessels in the Persian Gulf. We're talking to General William Enyart about the possibility after the break.
Meet the future. A chef, a designer, and an engineer. All learning to save and spend their money with Chase. The chef's cooking up first with her new debit card.
Hungry?
Uh-huh. The designer's eyeing sequins, plaid. While mom is eyeing his spending. Nice. And the engineer? She's taking control with her own account for college. 3 futures, all with Chase. Freedom for kids, control for parents. One bank for both. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Icy Hot Pro starts working instantly with 2 Max Strength pain relievers. So you can rise from pain like a pro. Icy Hot Pro.
When you have chronic kidney disease, there are places you'd like to be. Like here. And here. Not so much here. If you have chronic kidney disease, Farxiga can help you keep living life. Farxiga. And Farxiga reduces the risk of kidney failure, which can lead to dialysis.
Farxiga can cause serious side effects, including dehydration, urinary tract or genital yeast infections in women and men, and low blood sugar. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may lead to death. A rare, life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Farxiga and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, an allergic reaction, or ketoacidosis.
Farxiga can help you keep living life. Ask your doctor for Farxiga for chronic kidney disease. If you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
Farxiga. Take a pea-sized amount. Apply it like a lotion. Pits, under boob, thigh folds, butt cracks, feet. This water-based cream, I'm telling you, it's invisible on the skin. It works like a dream. Why didn't someone think of this sooner?
I had 8 UTIs in 1 year. This inspired me and my partner Spencer to launch Eucora. Eucora makes effective urinary tract health products.
It truly works miracles. The peace of mind I've been looking for.
Go to eucora.com to learn more.
I got this $1,000 camera for only $41 on DealDash.
DealDash.com. Online auctions since 2009. This PlayStation 5 sold for only 50 cents. This iPad Pro sold for less than $34. And this Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20.
I got this KitchenAid stand mixer for only $56.
I got this barbecue smoker for $26.
And shipping is always free.
Go to DealDash.com right now and see how much you can save.
Back in my day, we didn't have all these types of fancy chicken.
Pretty sure you have buffalo wings and fried chicken.
Well, we didn't have garlic parm or sweet bourbon barbecue.
And he had to walk uphill both ways.
And it snowed every time.
Yeah, right, Grandpa. You're from Miami.
At Built Basics, we believe that quality is the foundation of confidence. That's why we obsess over every stitch and fabric choice. What started as a commitment to crafting a better men's shirt has evolved into a mission to redefine your closet. Our transitional clothes adapt to your lifestyle, from the gym to the office to a night out on the town. Our brand is all about embracing opportunities in style. Visit BuiltBasics.com or download the app today.
You're watching News Nation, news for all America.
This is not just delivery. This is knowing even superheroes can use a sidekick. Walgreens.
When you find your reason to go on, let it pull you past the doubt, past the pain, and past your limits. No matter what, we go on. BioFreeze.
Welcome back to News Nation Prime. Senior leaders from 40 countries are in Saudi Arabia to discuss a possible peace deal for the war in Ukraine. Notably missing from the negotiating table is Russia. Heading into the meeting, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky offered some powerful words. Quote, "The rules-based international order, which was violated by Russian aggression, must be restored. The greater the world consolidates for restoring a just peace, the sooner we can end the bombs and missiles." Putin's army launched yet another deadly strike on Ukraine overnight, hitting a blood transfusion center. It's not clear tonight how many people were killed. Joining me now to discuss is retired Army Major General William Enyart. Major General, thanks so much for being here.
Great to be with you this evening, Nick.
Hey, you know, so Russia isn't a part of the peace talks, but the U.S., China, India, and many others all are. What is the overall benefit of having these nations join the peace effort?
Well, the real impetus here, I think, is to get many of the non-aligned nations, the nations that really haven't taken a stance here, to line up more with Europe, NATO, and the U.S. Against Russia in this situation. Russia really is becoming a client state of China. Russia's economy is about the size of Italy or Spain, whereas China is the #2 economy in the world. So Russia really can't afford to continue waging a major war without some support from somewhere. And right now, the only place that can come from is China. So we want to make sure that we keep China out of the war, economically speaking, as well as militarily speaking.
Now, and we can also talk about how, it's clear that Vladimir Putin is the face of Russia, and that relationship with China is essential. And the fact that we have not seen him as much as we usually have, what does that tell you, General?
Well, it's interesting. With the brouhaha that they had with the Wagner Group, and Mr. Prigozhin, who essentially revolted and had his troops marching on Moscow. Then all of a sudden they turn around and now they're off in Belarus. And we've not seen much of Prigozhin either. I have to think that there's some really interesting maneuvers going on at the very upper echelons of Russian society, the Russian government and the Russian military. And you've seen many of the generals getting fired, getting replaced. Although the top two are staying in place, but they too have kind of dropped out of sight. So I think there's a whole lot of confusion going on there, and it'll be interesting to see what shakes out in the next several weeks.
And General, it seems like we're also seeing a growing level of discomfort amongst Russian civilians who are now saying, wait a minute, bombs are coming across the line here. What's giving Ukraine this ability to attack us? Is that sense of disappointment, is that sense of delusionment about Russia just running over Ukraine, is that starting to dissipate a bit?
Well, I would certainly think so. Russia's suffered massive casualties here. And of course, the fog of war totally obscures the real number of casualties. Both Ukraine and Russia certainly fudged the numbers quite a bit. But we do know that there have been massive Russian casualties here. Putin thought he was going to roll in and take it over in a few days, and certainly failed to do that. With the conscription efforts that have had to take place in Russia, and with the economic sanctions that have been placed on Russia, clearly the Russian people are beginning to wonder.
Yeah, pulling prisoners out of jail to help reinforce your troops is not a good sign. I want to switch quickly, in less than 30 seconds I have here, to talk about Iran. We're learning that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is boosting its Navy with drones in a direct response to U.S. plans to add Marines on commercial ships to prevent seizures. What's your immediate reaction to the escalating tension there?
Well, this is certainly nothing new. There's been a lot of tension between Iran and the U.S. for decades. And essentially, Iran's been engaged in piracy here in the Straits of Hormuz. These drones, they need the drones and the missiles because they really don't have much of a navy. And they've only been successful using these fast attack speedboats to seize unarmed merchantmen in the very narrow Straits of Hormuz. It's only about 30 miles wide there.
So they're picking an easy target. So we should not overinflate their success.
Oh, absolutely. The Iranians have been supplying drones to Russia, so it'll be interesting to see. And of course, they've been watching what the Ukrainians have been doing with drones in the Black Sea. We had the Iranians, Ukrainians heavily damaged 2 Russian ships, as well as the Kerch Strait Bridge.
General Enyart, thanks again for joining us tonight. I appreciate your insight.
Always great to be with you, Nick.
Absolutely. The UFO congressional hearing took the U.S. by storm, and now it's making a splash overseas. The latest whistleblower accusations straight ahead after the break.
For people with diabetic nerve pain of the feet, it's time for Great Feets. Help get them with Qutenza, the only topical prescription treatment approved to help reduce diabetic nerve pain of the feet. Great Feets. The day-to-day, ordinary things that seem extraordinary when your feet feel better. Qutenza is different. One 30-minute application in your doctor's office can provide up to 3 months of diabetic foot pain relief. Qutenza can only be applied by a healthcare provider. Qutenza can cause severe irritation of eyes, mucous membranes, respiratory tract, and skin. Patients may experience pain and burning upon application, and following removal of Qutenza, reduced sensation in the feet may occur. The most common side effects were redness, pain, or itching where Qutenza was applied. If any of these side effects become severe, tell your doctor immediately. Talk to your doctor about how Qutenza may help reduce pain in your feet so you can get onto your own great feats. Qutenza. Learn more at Qutenza.com.
Wealth-changing question. Has your advisor created a portfolio based only on your age and risk tolerance? That's simply not good enough. Your money deserves better, and so do you. At Creative Planning, our private wealth managers learn about you first, and then they create a customized plan and portfolio by partnering with our in-house money managers, accountants, and attorneys. Don't settle for a standard portfolio. Book your free meeting today at creativeplanning.com. Creative Planning, a richer way to wealth.
I have type 2 diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take once daily Jardiance at each day start. As time went on, it was easy to see I'm lowering my A1C.
Jardiance works 24/7 in your body to flush out some sugar. And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardiance can lower the risk of cardiovascular death too. Jardiance may cause serious side effects including ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration that can lead to sudden worsening of kidney function, and genital yeast or urinary tract infections. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. And don't take it if you're on dialysis. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Jardiance is really swell, the little pill with the big story to tell.
Hey, what's up? It's the People Shark here, Damon John. I'm going to give you a tip that I have never shared with anyone before. This tip is about how to create the wow factor in your home. Every person that comes into my home comments about how amazing it smells. It's all thanks to Aroma 360 Centrifuge. We feel like we live in a luxurious hotel every day.
And I love how evenly it sets our space.
We highly recommend that you go to aroma360.com to get yours today.
If you're someone who struggles with mobility, even a short walk won't seem like a short walk. But the sturdy and comfortable Hurricane provides the balance and support you need. It helps you walk on any surface and truly stands alone. Get the #1 selling cane in America with our worry-free 100% money-back guarantee, plus free shipping. Just go to hurricane.com today. Also available at Walmart.
The Mega Millions jackpot, more like the Mega Billions jackpot. Tuesday's massive jackpot has climbed to more than $1.55 billion, making not only the largest Mega Millions jackpot ever, but the third largest ever in the U.S. lottery history. Only beat out by the Powerball's $2 billion jackpot in 2022. While the mania surrounding the Barbie movie is making fans look fantastic in life and in death. A funeral home in El Salvador is offering pink coffins with linings featuring pictures of the famous doll. The owner of the funeral home had offered pink coffins before the movie's release, but the Barbie craze swept the country and gave him the idea to create a way for fans to take the toy to the grave. Well, Simone Biles is competing for the first time in 2 years tonight. The gymnast will be at the U.S. Classic in Chicago, where she's scheduled to compete in all 4 events. She last competed at the Tokyo Olympics, where she pulled out of multiple events due to the twisties. That's the kind of mental block gymnasts can suffer while doing high-level routines. And in college football news, the Pac-12 conference will look very different a year from now. Arizona State, and Utah have announced they're leaving the Pac-12 for the Big 12, while Oregon and Washington are leaving it for the Big 10. With UCLA, USC, and Colorado also scheduled to lead the Pac-12 next year. The more than century-old conference will soon be down to just 4 schools. A Pac-12 spokesperson said it's focused on securing the best possible future for its member schools, though some college football analysts predict the upcoming season will be its last. And the World Dog Surfing Championships were held in California today. Surfing dogs from across the nation caught some waves and competed to take home the gold from the Golden State. Hundreds of people flocked to the beaches to catch the competition. The surfing dogs wore specially designed goggles and wetsuits to keep them warm in the cold water. Well, tomorrow is a big day in women's soccer world, and it's do or die for Team USA. It's a matchup of the Titans, and the #1 ranked U.S. women's team will play #3 Sweden, with the number advancing to the quarterfinal World Cups. You're watching News Nation Prime. Thank you so much. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. I'm Nick Smith. Good night.